Folks, I'm going to make a start. Okay. The webinar today is based on Active Directory, a bit of a deep dive with regards to the way ShadowProtect will deal with it. Okay, a couple of things you can do, the old ways, the new ways, there's plenty of things we can do here, folks. Purely and simply, I'll minimize this screen. This is just a Active Directory domain controller that I fired up this morning based on ShadowProtect. I did do a couple of backups this morning, so you can see them here. I did the full backup at 11:06, and then did an incremental at about 11:30. Okay, nothing out of the ordinary. I did just back up the C drive, folks. Okay, on this particular computer, the C drive is where I've actually stored. I've left Active Directory settings, so that's why I just did the C drive. It's one of the few I've never ever changed. But there's Active Directory and TDS. And then the other part of Active Directory, obviously, is sysvol. Okay, so sysvol is where Active Directory replicates bits and pieces through, and you get to see, the shortcuts. This is the automatic share structure, and you can have a look at the content set. You can have a look at the domain. You can see the policies that I've got on the domain, any scripts. This is all that the normal bits and pieces. That's automatically shared out when Active Directory starts, if it's a successful start. But all the info comes out of here. Okay? All right. We will just close that back up. And we will go to here. So if I go to the images folder, you can see the two backups I did this morning. That's cool. If I now go to the event viewer, and I am going to go back about an hour in the event viewer in the application event log and look for a couple of bits and pieces, because you need to understand how ShadowProtect actually backs up Active Directory. Okay? And for those that have seen it before, please bear with me. For those that have never seen this, it could be interesting, because we need to remember, typical event viewer on a 2008 R2 takes forever and a day to open the damn thing. Typical domain controllers 2003 onwards, 2008, 2008 R2, 2012, every time you do a backup of, say, the C drive in this case, okay, you will see that we're backing up the Active Directory stuff as well every time. So if I go back here, and I'm going to go probably for 11:31, yes, because that's when that backup was done. You'll notice here these are purely and simply Windows event logs relating to the time when we did a backup, and it's the typical provider talking to VSS, talking to the writers. And on this particular machine, if I just quickly do this, we'll go for and we'll type in VSS admin. Our provider will do the snapshot, but we talk to VSS. VSS calls the writers to flush things to disk. And we just wait for a second or three. VSS is not the quickest thing in the wide world, but there's two of them here in particular, and they're both on this page now, NTDS and DFSR. That's Active Directory, and that's Active Directory replication. Single domain controller still has AD replication, okay? Because I write something into, it could be a new policy, but I write that into the NTDS DIT database. It then puts it out as one of the group policies, yes? Okay, so here you can see this whole process. Local security subsystem, that is Active Directory, okay? DFSR, we're stopping the instance. We have to flush it to disk, folks. Freeze has started for AD. Okay, the freeze has ended for AD. Oops, too far, Jack. Then we go here, completed successfully, and DFSR starting up a new instance, and there we go. There's the C drive incremental number 1 backup. Okay, every time we back up a domain controller's C drive, if the things are still stored on the C drive, we are actually doing most, if not all, of the system state backup. Okay, It's just not in a format you're used to. So, how do we deal with this? Sure, we're backing it up. Sure, they're a perfect backup. So how do we deal with this stuff? I've just disabled that, folks, because I don't want to continue doing this job. So how do we deal with it? Well, you've got two ways, folks. And it depends entirely on what was deleted or broken. Okay? If it's a major deletion, I probably would use the traditional method, which is based on a little bit of a white paper, discussion paper I've set for people about how you can do this. Here is a bit of an AD restore exercise, which is still valid today. It's based on 2003, but still valid today. And here's also something to deal with USN rollbacks, because that's the fundamental problem that most people get. The biggest problem is when I've got multiple domain controllers and I actually destroy a role or I delete something, or how do I get it all back? Well, the simple way, folks, is let's mount that last backup, shall we? Okay, give it the G drive, I don't really care. Okay, mount the sucker up. Perfect. We go into the Windows folder. We go down to, way past it, NTDS, and I go copy. And I'm going to put it on the C drive. Okay, so I'm going to create a folder. I'm just going to call it AD restore delete at some point in time, some date, yes? So in there, I'm just going to put in there that particular folder, okay? And it copies it across. Perfect, done and dusted. So I'll just minimize that one. I will actually take this G drive here and I will go quick dismount because that's all I wanted. Okay? What I would then do, folks, is if it's a major component of Active Directory that somebody screwed up, deleted, whatever, I would shut this machine down. I would restart it in AD restore mode. I would go to the original folder on the C drive where NTDS is sitting, and obviously I can't do it because I didn't reboot, but I would delete these contents. I would open up that location where I restored it to, copy the contents out of there, put them in here, and then I would go down and use a simple old tool that Microsoft's always given us. It's called NTDS Utilities, and do an authoritative restore. Because what an authoritative restore will do is if you do it at the upper level or the actual individual object level, what it will do, folks, is it will create will recreate the object or restore the object, but what it will do is it will update the USN number by a number of 100,000, so that when I restart this server again, okay, any other domain controllers in the network are obviously going to say, no, you need to delete that. This one's going to go, nah, sorry, fellas, my USN number is 100,000 greater than yours. I've had an authoritative restore. Take it back and put the components back. That's definitely a way you can do it. And it works, it's proven, and it definitely works, okay? 2008 R2 onwards, and you can simply go in here and, whoops, wrong, okay, raise the domain functionality level. Okay, I've currently got this one running, and the forest running at 2008 R2. Now, 2008 R2's got a really nice little tool in it that not a lot of people know about. It's called the AD recycle bin. A really difficult thing to use. So, see this poor little old user here by the name of Billy Nurk? He's a cousin of Fred, works for sales. Well, guess what? We're going to delete him. Okay? Now, as soon as I delete him, he has what's called a tombstone record. Okay, this tombstone record, okay, in early versions of Active Directory stood around for 90 days. Now it's only 60 days. If somebody says, I need that user back, what are you going to do? You're going to do an authoritative restore of something that was, make sure you do not try to use an authoritative restore of an AD backup that's 2 months old, because if it's over the 60 days, folks, it ain't going to work. It just purely and simply says, no, I'm sorry, it's Tombstone. The Tombstone record is too old. But in this simple instance here, somebody, a junior IT person's all just mistakenly went and gone and deleted Freddie Nurk. Sorry, not Freddie, Bill, his cousin. Do I need to shut down this server to fix this particular problem? No, I don't, folks. There's a simpler way of dealing with this, and it is all based on the 2008 R2 onwards forest domain role. Levels, the forest and domain levels. As long as it's 2008 R2, it will turn on the AD recycle bin. Ooh, great little saver, fellas. So how I'm going to fix this one now is, sure, I could do a backup, and sure, I could do an authoritative restore. It would definitely work, but it's going to take me, minimum of, 15 minutes. Yes? 10 minutes, maybe. It depends on how long it takes for the computer to reboot and shut down and all those other issues. There's a simpler way. As long as the AD recycle bin exists, folks. It helps if I go to the right place, doesn't it? There's a few of these free tools kicking around. I just particularly like this one. It works extremely well. It is simple. Okay? 2008 R2 forest level, 2008 R2 native, current domain, AD recycle bin is enabled, and I can do this. So hopefully, with a little bit of luck, I might be able to find, I don't know, I think it's Billy I'm looking for at the moment, but anyway, let's go load deleted objects. And you can see here that it found Bill. Okay? It's in the deleted objects container. And the pure and simple thing to do here now, folks, is this is a simple one, obvious reasons. If it was much more complicated, and I'll show you what complicated is shortly, I would just simply go here and go restore object. Yes? And it's restored it. And if you press here, there are no more objects to restore. Beauty. So what's in Active Directory? Okay, we're going to simply go right click here and we're going to go refresh. You'll notice that this count is disabled. The first thing you're obviously going to have to do is go reset password and go put in a password that's acceptable. Okay, then go right click properties, go to the account. And it's got all the original information that I put on it, folks. That's my original stuff. Okay. The account is disabled, and I'd go apply. Okay. If it was a normal account, I would untick these, and I would tick this one. Okay. To make sure that he changed his password at first logon. Yes. So if we go back over here, we go general. Yeah, see how there's some bits and pieces of information missing? But at least this guy can continue on doing his job, yes? So we just go back over here and type in his normal names. Whoops, it helps if you can spell. Just go to his account and type in whatever it is. And we just go simply apply. Okay? I'm going to put this back at that just for the sake of it. Okay? Fairly simple. Now, what would happen if somebody was to have deleted this particular OU called Sydney, and it's got the admin and finance and sales, or the head office in some other city, and all these separate accounts underneath this sort of stuff. Okay, that gets a little more complicated. It's going to confuse a few things. I would probably do that one through AD restore mode with an authoritative restore of that particular container. And if you have a look in here, okay, if you put view advanced features, we'll go here and we'll go to properties. Okay. Attribute editor. Okay, the distinguished name. That's the name it's looking for. If you do an authoritative restore of that particular attribute, it will do everything underneath it automatically. Okay? So if somebody was to have deleted that, I would probably not use the recycle bin. Okay? The recycle bin is purely and simply intended for the simple things like poor old Billy Nook getting deleted by mistake. Okay? Might have been Fred Nook we were trying to get rid of, and we actually did Bill by mistake. We go, oh, okay, let's fix it. The AD recycle bin, too, folks, doesn't deal with a lot of complicated extra attributes. It puts the object back, but it doesn't generally restore all of the attributes, as you saw with Billy. None of this was here. Okay. I also created that account this morning, folks. It doesn't have an email address. So if it did have an email address and an Exchange mailbox, you would have to reassociate that account with that mailbox. That's not hard to do. And if it's a single user, yeah, the AD recycle bin is definitely a way to travel. But if it's more complicated, like an entire OU with a bunch of sub-OUs, I would definitely use the AD restore mode method to do that. Okay? It's been a little while since I've done one, folks, but it wouldn't take us long to sort it out. Okay? So, fellas, folks, nice and simple little one for today. Just purely and simply remember that every time we back up with ShadowProtect, we are doing what's called a system state backup. It's just not in the format you're used to. And you need to deal with it from that perspective. Okay? So I don't need that anymore. I'm just going to also delete that out of there. Okay? I normally would put a date on there so that people knew at this particular date, make sure that folder gets deleted in case there's more than one system administrator kicking around. Okay. Nice and simple little one for today, folks. Are there any questions at all on that one? She's short and sweet, about 20 odd minutes today, not the 35 or 40. So, any questions at all, guys? We have one, by the looks of this. 2 seconds. Interesting question. This gentleman, obviously, I will rephrase that. This particular question, if the NTDS and sysvol are on separate volumes, such as a D and say a C drive, do the D and C drive need to be in the same backup job? Not so much restore job, but the backup job when backing up and restoring. Yeah, absolutely. Folks, it's not common, but I have seen it where somebody will shift. There used to be in the early days of Active Directory a little tool from Microsoft called AD Sizer, which would tell you, based on the information that you fed into it, number of users and how many attributes were going to change per day and blah, blah, blah. It would say this is how quick the disk needs to be. Okay? I think I still have a copy of it somewhere, but anyway. They would then say to you that NTDS needs to be on a separate volume of a SCSI attribute, yada, yada, yada. And this gentleman's obviously, or this person here, I can't see the full name, but this person's asked the question, if I've got sysvol still on the, say, the C drive, but I've got AD or NTDS sitting on the D drive, do I need to back them up in the same job? Yes, the answer is absolutely. Because you need to stop AD replication while you are backing up NTDS, because it stops the NTDS service, which flushes it to disk. Therefore, you cannot allow replication to continue. However, you do not need to restore sysvol if you're doing an authoritative restore of a component in AD, because the whole concept behind sysvol is it is an automatic share after AD replication has replicated from ntds.dit into sysvol. The only thing that would be outside of that parameter would be the scripts folder. Now, if there's more than one AD, well, guess what? One of the other ones will copy the script across, okay? But generally I would only ever say you only need to restore the NTDS folder, because AD replication will recreate all the bits and pieces that it requires inside of sysvol, okay? But they need to be backed up at the same time by all means, okay? I have a very simple question here from somebody. Matt is asking me the question of this. That's the very simple tool that I use. It's a free one. If you just simply search Google for AD Recycle Bin 1.2, it is, in my opinion, there's about 4 or 5 of them, including one written by a couple of Microsoft guys. This particular one I find to be the easiest one for people to use, but please remember it is only purely and simply for simple little recoveries. Do not try to use it for something more complex like an OU being blown away. I would always prefer that you went back and used AD restore mode for that. Okay? The document you will have to ask, there's a question here, folks. Where do we download this document and the video? The video, after it's been completed today, will be given to the salespeople. They will upload it to YouTube and let people know where that is at some point in time. That's out of my control. The document, if you're interested in that particular little document, it's just a bit of a white paper I wrote, ramblings of my own. If you want that, talk to your account manager and we'll get you a copy of it. Okay? Interesting question, this particular one, and I've tested it a couple of times. If a server is 2012, is there any steps to take for USN rollbacks, or is this automatically handled now? I do not believe it is automatically handled. Every test I've done says it still functions the same way. There will be USN rollbacks. You simply, purely and simply need to put in place a little registry key, okay, to prevent USN rollbacks. For example, I did a migration job for a customer just recently. We're migrating out of one data center into another data center. We put the simple key in place before we did the last incremental backup. When we then shut the server down and I did a restore into the other data center, it immediately comes up, and what this USN rollback key does, and it only works for the first reboot, what it purely and simply does is it fires itself up. It says, fine, I will immediately take a backup copy of the current database. I will blow away what's there, put down the copy that it creates, and says I will prevent USN rollbacks from there. And it's just a simple little registry key. As far as I'm aware, 2012, the functionality is identical. Every test I've done on it validates that as well. Okay? So yes, just simply look for USN rollbacks and how to prevent it. Okay. All right, folks, nice and short and sweet today, which is a bit of a change for us. So at that point in time, folks, I'm going to say thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and hopefully I'll see you for the next one. And we'll see you then. Okay. Thanks, guys. Bye.